This question is whether a judge could sentence a teenager to a church. Now, is there a separation between church and state? This seems to be a crucial issue here. Can the government force one to go to a church, even if that is a church that one has a predisposition um, to join and so on? Here's this young man driving under the influence and happened to cause the death of a fellow youth. And so instead of going to jail for 10 years, decided that he should go to church for 10 years. And in many circles, it might be a great sigh of relief experiencing himself. He's free and just has to go to church. And some people are happy that he's sentenced to be saved and so on. There might be a thin red line there between church and state, and I don't think that, on the other hand, he wouldn't contest it because, okay, I lost in sending you to church, but you still have to face some judgment and go to jail for 10 years. But as far as God is concerned, that shouldn't happen. And there's precedent. When Daniel and his other colleagues refused to follow into the tradition of Babylon, the smart guys over there with jealousy and other things set the king up, and they were able to be thrown into first the lion's den, and he survived that. He said that the God shut the lion's mouth, so they were all friends all through the night. And they set him up again and decided to burn all and throw him in the fire. Before Nebuchadnezzar was there and the whole realm and all his big shots and so forth. And when they looked into the fire, the men who threw them into the fire were slain by the flames. The heat was so intense that they died right there from asphyxiation, because all the oxygen was being used by the fire suspect, and just carbon dioxide or God must have smitten them. So they died anyway. And in the fire, instead of seeing four, they saw five. They saw another person walking around the fire with them. And Nebuchadnezzar perceived that is God in there. And so he ordered them out. And he made a proclamation that everybody in his empire must serve the God that Daniel and his colleagues serve. That is the true God in heaven. But God wasn't happy with it. He doesn't want dictators and rulers and judges to dictate to people where they should go. Because you see, there's a thin red line here. You join, especially the Christian church or the Christian religion, by being convicted by the Holy Spirit of being a sinner and one committing oneself to follow the teachings of the Bible and wherever God through the Holy Spirit would lead one. But when the judge sentenced you there, you avoid the convictions, and this is just setting you up to be a hypocrite, because you just have to go to church to avoid 10 years, but you don't have to be committed, as it were. Now, he might end up finging a sort of commitment, but in real terms, I don't think it's going to be salvific, and it would sort of endear him to God and so on. Maybe it might, but not necessarily. And so, from this perspective, I think the judge should not have sentenced him to jail. Send him to jail. You know, the judge is saying, well, this young boy has so much potential. He's just going to waste 10 years in jail when he could go to church and go to college and get a good life. Well, if a young boy like this is going to go and drink up and drive in the street, I don't see, what college and church can do for him, because he should have known that when you're impaired, you can't drive really. I see it in Puerto Rico, people come out the restaurant drunk and staggering and so on. You don't know where the vehicle is, they got to press that thing, and then the light and horn come on over there and say, oh, here's my car. And they seem to be able to control it, they're going on the road good. But as a professional driver, and I've done the courses, they say there are 3 stopping distances, or 3 responses. First, you see the danger, you recognize the danger, you recognize it for a certain amount of seconds, and then you respond by going for the brakes. And then when you match the brakes fully, the vehicle now has a stopping distance. So you have a perception distance, a response distance, and a stopping distance. And if you're impaired, all 3 are going to be longer. So you could end up, slamming into people's cars and into pedestrians and a whole variety of things. So, you should have gone to jail instead of to church, because God doesn't like you sending somebody to church. because they can only come to fulfill the requirements, and even if they some way somehow got converted, that's not the way it works. It works that God would have convicted him that he's a sinner and that he needs salvation, and he has everything prepared for him, and just come on, let's go on. And it might be interesting to see after the 10 years over what's going to happen. Maybe you find a young girl that you might marry, but then you might still be partying, you might be drinking still at home instead of on the road driving. So I don't know how this is going to end, but I know God doesn't like it. It's a violation of church and state, and he's not going to oppose it because he doesn't want to go to jail for 10 years.